Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen for Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. Time now is 7 p.m. We begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So are there any public comments? Seeing none. Okay, as far as correspondence, we are going to mark FOI meeting policy in as correspondence. I'm going to go ahead and read that first. So as you recall, use of cell phones are something that we are not allowed to do except for if we're doing something to look up a map or something like that we're allowed to do. So I'd just like to read this. While meeting is in session, the following protocol shall be followed. Personal devices should not be used to communicate through any means, including text message, email, instant message, social media post, or conversation. An exception will be made if the device is being used as part of the meeting session, i.e. a member is participating in the meeting via phone or conference. If there's a need to communicate regarding personal business during the meeting, the member should excuse him or herself from the meeting and exit the meeting room, or request the chair to move the meeting for a recess. Any conversations by members questions should be addressed to and through the chair. Talking, asking another member a question, or whispering any comments to another member should not take place. I'll leave that as it is, because I think we're all grown-ups, because the first piece of correspondence. And the second piece is we do have a request to the members of the Board of Selectmen. Mary, did you provide that letter with everyone?
Yes.
In your packets? You'll find it in your packet. It's a request asking for permission to create a field maintenance account. And since we're going to talk about that later in the meeting, if approved, we can discuss exactly what is in the letter.
Did you not have it?
I don't know. I did see it.
Okay,
Sorry,
Thank you.
excellent.
sorry.
Any other correspondence, Mary? Those are the two items, right?
That was it.
Okay. With that, I would accept a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen's special meeting minutes from March 20th, 2024.
So moved.
Any discussion? Okay. I don't think there's any discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. I'm going to forego the first selectman report since we're going to have a number of things added to the agenda tonight. And with that, I'd make a motion to add a executive session under unfinished business to talk about the 159 Greenwood Avenue property. And with that, for discussion, it's just because we'll discuss things that could affect the negotiation and the pricing in the public. So that's why we're doing it under executive session. With all that said, those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. I'll add that after the appointments. Also added to unfinished business as part of that is consideration to allow the first selectman to secure broker. Melanie, what else were we going to add to that motion? Yeah, I would say do any and all things required to.
That is part of your, yes,
Let me write that down.
your due diligence and preparation for an offer.
Perfect. So with that, I'd like to add to the unfinished business portion of the regular meeting, a motion to allow the first selectman, or consideration to allow the first selectman to do any due diligence required to, secure an offer.
Second.
Proceed with an offer. Okay, I got a second. All in favor for adding to the?
Aye.
Okay. Aye. Yeah, any opposed? My motion carries. And then last but not least, actually, we'll add two things. Under new business, we'll have consideration of Benedict Road easements. And I move we add for consideration Benedict Road easements to the agenda under new business. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And finally, consideration of creation of a field maintenance account for Park and Rec. I move that we add that to the agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. I believe that
Excuse me, did we spend get burned on there as well?
We just did that.
Okay.
Benedict Road
And
easements.
the easements, there's actually been conversions and conveyance property separate
Oh,
from the
Oh, we're gonna do
easements.
that too? Okay, so we'll add to the agenda. I move we add to the agenda a conveyance of property on Benedict Road.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's do one of those movies. All right, first up, we have a letter from the Bethel Republican Town Committee with 2 appointments. It's not in your packet because we just received it. I'll pass it along, but the first is we're going to have an appointment tonight for the Fire Commission and one for the say the Board of Education added here. I guess we're gonna have to add that because the resignation took place. Yeah, we got that
Did you get the letter?
right here.
Okay,
Okay,
sounds good.
so first off, we'll discuss the appointment for the Fire Commission. The Republican Party added Tom Smith from Dodgingtown Road. It's important to realize that this was an unaffiliated person who resigned, so we don't have to put it another affiliated. This is a Republican, and this still complies with minority representation on the board. This is the appointment letter. The resignation was quite some time ago, as you recall.
Yeah.
Tom Smith has been a fireman before.
He's currently not a fireman in Bethel.
No, he's not a Bethel fireman.
I know.
Okay, that's fine. So with that, I move that we appoint Todd Smith to the vacancy on the Fire Commission.
Second.
And any other for discussion? See none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none. That motion carries unanimously. I move that we add to the appointment list there, an appointment to the Board of Education. That appointment is to replace Jen Lewis, who resigned effective March 19th.
Second.
Okay, so that's on the agenda. All in favor, add to the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. So we received a recommendation from the Republican Town Committee to appoint Anthony Cassio from Linda Lane. I guess Anthony is, has kids in the schools. He's been extremely involved in the community. My understanding, he's very involved with St. Mary's Carnival and, fine outstanding community citizen. So with that, I move that we appoint Anthony J. Cassio to the Board of Education to fill the vacancy made by Jen Lewis.
Second.
Any other further discussion? Being none, I'll try your minds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, with that, under unfinished business, we now have the opportunity to go into executive session. So with that, I will invite Mary to stay in the room. And I don't think we have anybody else.
You have David Betham.
Yeah, we'll invite them in. Yeah. No, but yeah, invite them in. So if you want to step out for just a minute, and the attorney actually.
Unfortunately.
Well,
I'll go for
hold
it.
on before you go. Could we, okay, tell you what, Rachel? I was talking about, we'll move that to the end, if everybody's okay with that. We'll just do it
Yeah,
another
that's
night.
generally what we do.
Yeah, that's fine. I did it under unfinished business because we talked about it last, but that's fine. So with that, I make a motion, we table this till the end.
Second.
Meeting. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, last one again. And actually, did you have, okay, good. Next up for consideration or for discussion, you should have in your packet the creation of a Bethel Service Award. So this is something we talked about a little bit last year, when we knew we were going to move the Bethel High School Alumni Hall of Fame over to the Municipal Center. If you've noticed, it's out in the front of the GP room on the right side as you enter. There was some discussion about creating some sort of award and putting it on the left side, whether it's a Bethel Hall of Fame, but something to recognize anybody from Bethel. Recently at the Economic Development Committee meeting, there was some discussion about the ability to have an award, a service award. So they kind of reignited this with their request. As you remember, I think I mentioned it in one of the previous meetings. What I've handed out today is really just kind of an outline of what the award qualifications would be the nomination process of the Board of Selectmen, the idea of having a selection committee and a review process, and even some ideas for the possible names of the award. We can certainly talk about this evening, or you can take it under advisement and we can continue it at another meeting under unfinished business if you like. Right? Okay. So with that, then, now that we have this, we can all look at that later. I move that we table the consideration of a Bethel service award.
I did.
All in favor? Aye.
Got it.
Okay, lays on the table. Next up on the hit parade. So this is a good opportunity to begin discussion of the actual charter revision. And as you know, I had handed out some ideas a few meetings ago regarding possible revisions in our charge. So as you remember, the process will be, we will appoint the Charter Revision Commission at some point, probably next meeting if we could do it. And then we would give them a charge of some of the things we think should be considered. After that, the Charter Revision Committee has, complete authority to go on and look at anything they want in the charter. So with that, I wanted to talk about some of the things that I put together to go forward. If there are things that we like, we could just kind of mark it as something we would support. If there are things that we could talk about later, we'll mark it for discussion later. We're not planning on voting on this tonight. I believe Melanie will have some additions as well, but it was kind of time to get the discussion started. So first up in the charter, and this was it was approved by the Board of Selectmen in 2018, and it had been adopted by the 2018 Charter Revision Committee. If you see the format, I have, the charter, I say the section, it'll have the recommendation, which is what either I've taken from something prior or I've written. And then if it's been acted on before, it's listed below. So in this case, it says proposed by the previous BOS and adopted by the 2008 Charter Commission. So under eligibility for office, currently, Section B prohibits town employees from serving on the Board of Finance, Planning and Zoning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, and in the Whitland Commission. The recommendation was to include the Board of Assessment Appeals in the prohibition and prohibit Board of Finance members from simultaneously serving on any other board or commission to prevent conflict of interest with regard to funding.
Right.
Is this something, I mean, as far as discussion, is this something that you both be open to?
Yeah, of course. Fine with that.
Okay, so I will mark that as something down the line that's in favor. Next up is section C 3-3 vacancies. It talks about the manner of filling a vacancy on the Board of Selectmen prescribed by Connecticut statutes. And then section C5-4 cites the acting first selectman assumes the role of first selectman. As we know, that kind of gets a little confusing. So I'm recommending that we add a reference to section C5-4 in section C3-3C. Just I don't know how we'll do that. That will be up to Melanie, but something that makes it clear that they need to go further on the charter and look at the acting first selectman role.
I agree with that.
Okay. So that's something we'll move along with, and that'll be something Melanie can look at language for in the future. Actually, it'll be our charter attorney, right? We'll do that. Section C3-4, Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen is the only remaining board with a 2-year term. As you recall, the previous Board of Selectmen put forth the 4-year term from a 2-year term for the Board of Selectmen. It was not adopted by the 2018 Charter Revision Commission. I'd like to put that forward again. Any discussion?
I think it's a good idea.
I'd like to stew on that.
Who wants to do it? That's fair enough. Let's do.
We'll stew on that.
How about a big question mark on that one?
What a big question.
Okay. Next up, the Fire Commission added, I think we're going to do some work on this language. I've talked to a few people, and instead of making an elected board, we should seek out to keep it as an appointed board. But I think it needs to be clear that we have taxpayers appointed to the board, and the fire officials should be ex officio members. And that's something we can certainly talk about once we actually have something in place. Any discussion on that?
How long is the
What was that, Brian?
The
So how
appointment
long
on the
is
fire
the
commission,
appointment? Yeah, how long is their appointment for?
I'll have to look in the charter.
Well, it was staggered. It was 2 and 4
Yeah, you got it right
years.
there?
I think it was
Can you hand me
4
one of your copies of the charter? It's right there. Yeah, it was staggered. I think it's 4, isn't it? Actually, you know what? It's in the code. Let me look it up.
Yeah.
I'm using my cell phone to look up the code. It's not on the charter yet. Because it's an ad hoc, or an ad hoc, but it's a
Right,
board of fire.
so it's covered by state statute.
No, it's in our code, in our town ordinance. Yeah, let me just double check.
I think there were going to be 4-year terms, but to get it started, there was a couple people that with a 2-year
Yeah.
term.
Okay. Board of fire.
It says right here not to ex officio.
Yeah, so the issue is that, and I'll be straight, it's one of these things where we just have firemen on it only. And it's recognized we need the experience of the fire department, but we also need to have some folks who are representative of the taxpayer. And
Right.
At first, we were talking about making an elected position similar to the police commission. But I think, we could move forward as long as we're talking about how we appoint to it and the actual people who are firemen in town or ex officio members.
I personally,
They're all 4 except for one's 5 for some reason.
Board of fire. Was there 1 to 5 maybe because they
There
had
is
to
one
get started?
5, the independent member, Arthur Ingram, is 2020 to 2025. The rest are
That-
23 to 27.
That's a mistake on board. Are you looking at on board?
I'm looking on the website.
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's supposed to be 4 years.
all the rest are 4.
I'd like to,
Stagger starting first of December, 4 years.
I'd like to discuss one.
Okay. Well, I'm sure, certainly open to it. I mean, police commission is 4 years, right? Staggered. Everybody's 4 years staggered. Everybody.
Just think, I mean, coming from the background I came from,
Mhm.
Sometimes things can get stagnant. But, I just think it's always good to get some fresh ideas on a board like
Sure.
that. There's a lot of new things out there. Just, yeah, I don't know. I would suggest maybe a 3-year, 2-year.
Well, with the staggered too, you're changing every 2 years. People, it's, well, let it run again.
What's the
If
point?
they don't, it's appointed, but, my point is a good thing to have someone on the fire commission for 20 years. I mean, it's, or every time they get appointed,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just think that, I don't know. It's just something I was thinking that it'd be nice if it was able to be rotated more.
Yeah.
Especially if you're getting taxpayer involvement and whatnot.
Well, I'll prefer discussion. I'm gonna mark
Yeah, I
that
mean,
as a
we
no.
can,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. There
Sure.
needs to be some changes and some other things, going on. with it.
Okay.
I definitely agree with that, but I was thinking.
Okay.
And a shorter term might actually attract taxpayers to come on. They don't feel like they're locked in for.
Yeah. I like locking them in though.
I know what you're
It's
saying.
hard to
I know,
replace
I
everybody
know.
leaving all the time.
All right, well, whatever, I'm
we're
not
going-
gonna.
I think it's a good, I understand where you're
Just
coming from.
something to discuss. It's
Yep.
not,
2-year term. Any other thoughts? I mean, we're appointed,
I think appointment makes the most sense.
and honestly, Richard, we talked a little bit about, what was the background of putting a selectman on the board?
It's just that the fire departments were so inconsistent that we felt someone from the board of selectmen would help direct it or have a little more control.
Sure. Okay.
But I don't see anywhere the board of selectmen needs a member on it. And, really, there's a little conflict in the charter about it.
Yeah,
too.
sure.
So
Yeah,
there is some wording in
Yeah.
further on and in the charter that says, yeah, maybe you can, but yeah, I think that could be eliminated.
Okay.
It's up and running and I think it's running pretty well right now, the fire commission. There was too many inconsistencies between the two departments.
I understand.
And that's why the fire commission was formed.
Very good. All right, so with that, I'll move on to C6-2. I have this under procedure. Believe it or not, the only place that talks about using Robert's rules for our town is in the annual town meeting. That's where it talks about it. It is important. I mean, I think everybody understands we use Robert's rules as our go-to in these meetings. But at some point, we really should put it in the charter. That's what this does. It's really a technical change. And it does a couple things. So first, it says Robert's rules is going to be what we use. The other part is in the town meeting, if you use Robert's rules in the town meeting, really, we're supposed to elect a secretary every time. Yet the past practice has been, we always have the town clerk do it. In fact, there's somewhere actually in state statute where it talks about if the town clerk is absent from a town meeting, you will elect a pro temp town clerk.
Hmm.
So really what I'm trying to do is kind of align this with state statute in a sense and what we're actually doing in practice. So we'll state in the charter that when we do have a town meeting, that the town clerk will be the secretary. And then if the town clerk's absent, the town clerk will choose a pro town. If they're able to choose, we will elect one. So it's really kind of a technical change. Would anybody have any problems with those? Okay. Next up, and by the way, we'll do this minute. We can do this over like 5-10 minutes and we can only stop and revisit. Annual town budget meeting. Okay, so as background, state statute requires us to have an annual town meeting for the transaction of business that comes before the meeting and talking about the budget. Somewhere along the line, we named the meeting in the charter the annual town budget meeting. One of the problems with that is it kind of gives the impression that you can't do anything at the meeting except budget. And there are a couple other things in that we'll have to look at as well. So what we're talking about here is just kind of changing the language to instead of annual budget town meeting, it will be the annual town meeting. And then the other piece of this, if you look at the town meeting or the annual budget meeting as it is now, once we vote on the budget, the town meeting automatically adjourns. And it adjourns to the referendum. We've never done that as a town, right? We've always done tax anticipation notes and other things after that point in the meeting. So I would say that in the charter, we would change that to just remind when the town meeting adjourns, annual town meeting, it adjourns to the budget referendum. This way, though, we're putting it in practice that we will actually adjourn it, just like we have done in the past. We've always had a motion to adjourn. We've adjourned at the end, and we haven't done it after the budget immediately. Does that make sense from what I've discussed? And you can mull it over and read the charter if you'd like.
Are you able to have an annual budget meeting and a separate town meeting?
I guess you could, but what's if you look at the statute, I mean, I think it says you have to hold an annual town meeting for the transaction of business property to come before the meeting. And I don't know if it says it includes the budget. I think it might actually the statute. But if you look at our charter, it gets a little convoluted. I mean, would we do town meetings, one for the budget, one for everything else? We could do a special town meeting anytime we want for anything.
Right.
We do, right? But again, I mean, technically, having an annual town meeting where you're having everybody there for the budget, there's a lot of things we do around budget time, like tax anticipation notes, capital, separate item. I would say we don't hand tie ourselves to saying we can't do anything at town meeting because that's what the state statute. We're legal within our right to do so. I'll say that because we can be more restrictive than state statute. It would still technically be complying, except that. Yeah.
I'm just worried about like filibuster. Someone is not happy with the budget and wants to add all these things and talk about. That's my only, I mean,
Yeah.
the budget is such an important night.
I understand.
I mean,
So
Recently, it's been a little more
Yeah.
calm, you know, in other
Well-
years, you know, it could go.
to your point, Robert's rule still dictates how the meeting rolls.
So how long? You could talk.
So if there comes a point where there's a problem, the chair doesn't have to, there are plenty of things, Robert rules you can do.
Okay.
Where the chair doesn't recognize somebody. The other thing is if it gets to a point, we can move to adjournment. Right, and do it another night if it got in a bind. I think Robert's rules protects us in that
Alright.
way.
I mean, I don't have a problem with changing it, as
Um,
long as we're protected and.
Yeah.
You know, future people are protected.
so let's revisit that too. Maybe we'll give some thought if there's anything that's an exposure for us.
Revisit. Okay. The, next up, in section B3, in the past, voters have consistently selected too high on the budget referendum, regardless of whether the budget has passed or failed, rendering advisory questions ineffective. Now, this came to us from the last, this was proposed by the Board of Selectmen for the Charter Revision Committee, 2018. They recommended removing it altogether. And the board, hold on here a second. Yeah, it was amended by the 2018 Charter Revision Committee. So the Board of Selectmen wanted to remove it. The Charter Revision Committee wanted to amend it and add a just right response. So there'll be 3 responses. There'll be too high, too low, just right. That's what they had put forward in the last. What are your guys' thoughts on it?
I don't have an issue with having all 3 responses as long as it doesn't affect the ballot, you know.
Yeah.
Police is okay with it and says
Yeah,
we
they're-
didn't do it.
They're non-binding questions. I can check with Lisa too.
I mean,
Yeah, just another checkbox.
it's not a big deal if they, you know, if that was
Yeah, I'm
what
okay
they
with
wanted to add, I mean.
Yeah.
You know, because it would give people, like, if people really like the budget, you know, I may support the budget, but if I can only say too low or too high, I'm gonna say, well, it's too high. If I like this budget, I don't want the budget to go up.
Right.
So I think it's fine.
Okay.
I mean, if you think it's added value,
I think that.
I mean, I think if the budget goes down,
Yeah.
you know, people
Yeah.
weren't happy with it. I think if the
Well,
budget
I think-
passes, I don't ever see a budget going
Yeah.
down because it's too low.
Right.
You know what
Oh,
I'm
I
saying?
think it did.
Yeah, how many years ago?
Well,
Reggie? Yeah, how many years?
Well,
ago?
years
Okay.
ago, right?
But I don't see
It has
that.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I can foresee any charter revision committee being very reluctant to take the advisory questions off because they've been established. So I think that that's a great compromise by saying, hey, we give them an opportunity. I don't think that's a bad one at all.
I 100% agree. And I believe, looking back at the minutes, it was a compromise. Exactly what happened.
I think,
Yeah.
put that forward.
Okay. I'll put that forward. Next up, section A1. Currently, the annual town budget meeting is held within the first 7 days of April. Since school break and the presidential primary take place early in April now, having a larger window would provide needed flexibility. Now, this was actually proposed by the Registrar of Voters in the 2018 charter revision and adopted by the revision committee. So the recommendation was change the charter to hold the annual town meeting or budget meeting, hopefully meeting, on one of the first 14 days of April to give them a little more opportunity. Any thoughts or concerns?
But they're excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays from the date of approval by the budget, correct? Or is that the next thing?
Usually that's a notification issue. Yeah, that's a notification issue.
No, I mean.
Yeah.
If the registrar of voters is saying that it's gonna be helpful to them, I think it's a
Yeah.
no-brainer.
Yeah, and this here's kind of an example in a way that we had to do within the first 7 days. We ended up with a primary and a town meeting in the same week.
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Richie, you're good?
Okay.
Always thought it was a little tight.
And again, these are, and when we're all done, we'll come out with a set of recommendations that we'll vote on. These are not hard and fast yet.
Yeah.
Next up here in section B1, charter dictates that the budget referendum shall take place not less, I just did that one, I just, how did I do this? Oh, it's the annual town meeting, I'm sorry. Charter vision dictates that the budget referendum shall take place not less than 7 nor more than 15 days, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, from the date of the approval of the budget meeting. Again, this was from the Red Charter voters that they recommended that we amend the section to permit the vote no less than 10 days after the annual budget town meeting. So that 7 days is really squashed. And they were saying it would make a lot more sense to at least make it not less than 10 days from their perspective. Everybody okay with that idea?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Section C6-5, petition for overrule. The Board of Selectmen currently fixed a special referendum not less than 7 nor more than 14 days after the certification of a petition. The recommendation by the register of voters was for the Board of Selectmen to change to fix a special referendum at least 10 days and not more than 15 days. So again, I think it's, when there's a petition for overrule and all comes in, it gives them a little more time. That it doesn't get jammed up, and it's consistent with the other one. Any issues with that? Okay, let's see how we do here. So I'll do one more.
I can tell you, I'm no way. This one.
Let's see what this says again. Okay, so actions requiring a referendum. Currently, section C-6 applies not only to all taxpayer-funded capital projects in excess of 1 million, but also by extension, all capital utility projects not funded by tax revenue, rather by user fees. The referendum requirement comes into play even though utility projects have no impact on the town budget and do not rely on general tax revenue. In the past, a referendum has been required just to approve the acceptance of revolving water loans from the state in order to maintain and improve the town's public water system. Even in cases where the state has mandated certain repairs and upgrades under the penalty of fines for noncompliance, the low limit of 1 million has resulted in harmful delays and expenses of conducting referendums in order to execute non-optional system upgrades. The recommendation by the previous Board of Selectmen and the Charter Revision Commission adopted it was to raise the referendum trigger to 2 million for capital utility projects that are funded exclusively through user fees, grants, and or loans. Okay. Yeah, I think the obvious issue is that, yeah, it does slow things down. At the same time, you're borrowing on the credit of the town. You're borrowing.
I think 1 million, especially for a small group of rate, it's being paid by the people on the water system, right?
Mhm.
I would like to, tell me a time where we didn't get a grant because something had to go to referendum. It's okay to say it happened. I don't recall it happening in my, costly delays and, how long does it take to put together a special town meeting if you're gonna have the funding? We're doing it for the fire truck. We don't have a fire truck picked yet.
Yeah.
So, if Tom Vila says, hey, look, coming up, we got a big capital project. It's gonna be tell us what you're gonna need. And honestly, how long does it take to pull it off?
Well, there are two pieces of this, right? Number one is now the town can end up shutting something down that the ratepayers might want. When it comes to actually fixing the system, now you can have everybody in town step up and say, oh, no, we're not going to do it when it's the ratepayers' choice. I think,
or if the state is telling you have to pick something.
yeah,
But that can happen if you raise it over 2 million anyway.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
When-
Yeah. Yeah.
It could happen either way. People can still come to the town meeting and say,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to spend $1 million on that project,
Well, but if it's
I understand what you're saying,
if
if
it's
it's
$1 million,
$2 million.
or let's say in this case, it's the other thing, I think it gives them more freedom. Because I think somewhere else they're talking about upping the amount that should go to referendum.
We just saw the reaction when we raised the water rates.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day,
Didn't go over
it really could go the other way. If we're getting a state mandate, and now the town should not have
oversight of the utility system. It's a ratepayer system. It's separate than everything we do. The town shouldn't influence that.
And some of the water lines that we've replaced in the past were a bit over $1 million, and they had to cut them back in some cases, not
Yeah.
100% of the work that they wanted to do. And that was a compromise that even the PUC had recommended that to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen did it to the
Yeah.
charter revision. It was just to make it more functional for the utilities department to do the repairs.
The utility department repairs are more expensive. I mean, they can be big at times to get it. And it does cost the taxpayer 10 grand for a referendum or so. For a big fix, I'm not that worried about the cost because it doesn't come on that often. But I don't know.
Well, all I would
Yeah.
like is some empirical data. How many repairs that weren't capital projects cost over $1 million? That weren't capital.
Oh, they were all capital.
Well, these are capital.
They
But
were
what I'm
all
saying is
capital.
that,
Yeah.
I'm saying an unknown issue that came up that wasn't being planned out ahead, like replacing water lines based on age or
Mhm.
whatever. When have we had an issue where we've had something happen where we needed $1 million immediately?
Well, when the state came in and said we had to, it wasn't PFAS, it was the pH something or other,
Oh, they
where the
before my
water
time.
was being
Yeah.
stagnant.
Yep.
And we needed to put the pumping station in behind the firehouse to,
How much did that cost?
was over $1 million.
Over $1 million, over $2 million?
No, it wasn't over 2. 1.3 or something like that.
I mean,
And then, like the water tanks, they were over $1 million each too, so they had to
Yeah,
have a
remember that.
referendum for those.
I mean, it's certainly a number that you consider, like where do we spend 10 grand extra to have a vote? What should the PUC have the power to do because it's ratepayer funded? What should the town have oversight on? I mean, loans are one thing. If we're using the power of the town to do a loan, the credit,
everybody's making an exception.
And, I'm not 100% sure, but sometimes the grants that come up are short term and you gotta get the grant in.
Yeah.
On a certain
Well, let's
date.
just, give me time to digest.
Yeah,
it.
let's all think about it. We don't make a
I just want to
decision.
digest
it's
it.
good work. This is what this is for.
I really want
Yeah, I'm
Well,
not.
these
comfortable
these
getting
are
there.
just gonna be the Board of Selectmen's recommendation to the charter revision, and charter revision is gonna
Yeah.
review them all again.
Yeah. But I mean, I think our recommendation definitely carries weight and we should.
Yeah.
And it would carry weight if we send this along or don't send this along and it was in the last one. We're saying, no, we don't like it. So I think it's worth talking about. Okay. Okay, so read it. Okay, so I'll tell you what, why don't we hold there? And we'll do the rest on next meeting.
All right.
Okay, let's see. Next up. So, next up is, and I'll just announce this, consideration of the delegation authority to the first selectman for approval of legal counsel to the planning and zoning and inland wetland commissions. Actually, I'm not a motion yet. So where this comes from is that, we routinely get requests from planning and zoning and inland wetland commission to have an attorney available for many different things. And instead of just having, attorney on retainer for that, they've always come back each time to the board of selectmen when they need something. And sometimes it's a pretty simple review. So I guess what we're seeking here with the advice of our town council is for the ability for me to appoint that attorney when that time comes up for those two commissions only. Just to streamline the process because, there've been a lot of times they need the expert opinion. So what are the thoughts? Motion.
And, trust the first selectman to do the due diligence of
Right.
hiring somebody. I know
Yeah.
we generally take their recommendations anyway.
Right. And right now,
Just
there are-
that if you make us aware of it, that
right.
You know, you had to hire an attorney for
If-
planning and zoning for such.
And if anything changed, I can put it in first selectman report, remind you, and we can do that after. Go ahead.
I just had a comment that the gentleman who's been used by the land use
Yeah.
commissions, they've used him for a number of years, Chuck Andrus, and he just gave us an updated engagement letter, and he's held his hourly rate for us, and he's very fair. But what's happening is sometimes it'll be, and there's a fair amount of development going on in Bethel, and there will be an important meeting or a decision, an opinion that's needed, and it's time intensive. And so this is the kind of thing we're seeing, is that we don't want our commissions to be at a disadvantage if they don't have the support they need when they need it. So we just want the ability to, of course, ask what the situation is, what's needed, what's the nature of the support, and then have Dan ask those questions and be able to get on that support sooner rather than later.
We do have our planning and zoning director up here. Betsy, you have anything you'd like to add, or just say, I can't tell from here.
Yes, the only thing I wanted to add to this was I would do it upon the recommendation of town council, because town council has a better understanding of everything that we have to deal with legally. And and I would leave it to town council to recommend to the first selectman that we use Chuck when needed.
I think that process probably would happen anyway, Beth, but.
Yeah.
Well, any attorney you guys choose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, we talked about it.
And if I could just add to that, that you would let the board of selectmen
Yes.
inform us at the next meeting or something like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. You want that in the motion? You want
Yeah,
that
well, that's
for
everybody to be informed.
Okay, so we'll do it. I'll state this in a formal motion. I move that we delegate the authority to the first selectman for approval of legal counsel to the Planning and Zoning and Inland Wetlands Commissions upon the recommendation of town council and with subsequent notification to the board of selectmen. I have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next up is consideration of the Benedict Road easements.
Okay, so.
You want to go through this?
It's not the easements on that. Well.
Well, it's
there's two
easements.
pie- There's
There are two pieces.
Are we doing the easements first or the road first? So,
Whatever you'd like to do. We have them both on the next to each other.
okay, so we're gonna do the easements. In the course of some development work, some surveys and title searches on the Steiner property being developed by the Range Road corner is, a couple things came to light. One of which is when they surveyed their property, and you've got a copy of this map in your materials, but it's kind of hard to see. There's a swath of Benedict Road, of our Benedict Road is actually on Steiner property. So there's an encroachment of Benedict Road onto private property. So all we're looking to do here is to allow for the grantor, the owner of the property, to deed us that piece that's already road to then be owned by the town of Bethel. You see it? Okay, I wasn't sure whether those maps were that great.
Oh, it's a shaded piece.
Yeah, that's it.
It's that shaded area parcel C. And it's to be conveyed to the town for roadway purposes. There's really no.
It does ask us
Just out
to
of
take
curiosity,
this
why don't
away.
they just give me an easement rather than doing the whole lot line?
They're just gonna, well, it just makes more sense. It's our road that we own the land that the road is on, so that we can get on there. Well, we're using it anyway. We're using it for roadway purposes and maintaining it. So they just want to let it, just give it to us, because for all practical purposes, we're exercising ownership rights anyway.
So are you saying it's the reason I've done the easement is just simplicity's sake, not so much?
Well, it just is simpler actually, just to say
Yeah.
the road is on it, just take it.
Yeah.
It just makes more sense. We all probably assumed it was your property anyway, because the road is on there.
Yeah.
But, so it's just simpler.
So I just want to make sure I understand this. I mean,
what they're doing is they're giving us an easement for this, not a lot
No,
line.
no.
This is a lot line.
This is actually the lot line.
Okay.
Everett Road lot line.
I just want, okay, I want to make sure.
So it's already been surveyed for the change of maps, the
This
Mylars,
is
all that,
all that, in fact, this
So
map
it's
is
already done.
recorded. It's
Oh.
already been recorded.
showing that it's our land.
It's showing it's to be conveyed. So that, so the deed will then reference this survey and the parcel Z on the survey is being conveyed to the town. I'm sorry, because there
No, it's
are
all right.
also easements on that.
Right, I just want to make
I'm
sure.
sorry for that.
Just out of curiosity, is the piece touching our road, is that like open space too for their subdivision, or is that being built
No, I
on?
think that's gonna be built up. I see a proposed drive right here.
Well, that's to enter their subdivision, right? I guess my question is it's just gonna be referenced on that map, but there's no coordinates of where the road lays now.
Do you mean, is it staked
Yeah,
right now?
Yeah.
On the ground? I don't know if it's staked on the ground. You would probably maybe be able to measure from the edge of, based on what they have, or I do not know that. I don't know that it's staked.
okay.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna
Oh,
actually.
Beth, yeah, good for Beth.
I was gonna actually ask Beth,
Beth,
put Beth up.
where
Did,
is she?
I'm curious did they do an
Beth is familiar with
H-24 on
this.
this?
Yes,
did.
she did.
Hi, it's a conveyance of an existing condition. Okay, so wherever the road ends and where the pavement ends and where the catch basins are, and so on and so forth on the survey, it's just a conveyance of existing conditions of a town's encroachment on someone else's property. And so they're conveying the property to us.
Thank you, Beth.
And I should have said, thank you, Beth, for reminding me that they did a referral and made a positive report that we should do this. So this is just sort of cleaning something up that just came to light.
And he's not asking for any payment, he's just conveying it to us.
For zero consideration, just
Or move
here,
your
take it,
road.
it's yours. It's either take the land with the road or remove the road, I guess, so we bought the road there.
All right, nice.
So in this case, the motion, the vote would be to accept the conveyance.
Right, it's to accept a parcel on Benedict Road for roadway purposes as approved by the, recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission and approved by the town engineer. I don't have his approval in writing. I've spoken with him. But I will make sure I get that. So it's just to approve the conveyance to the town, that portion of property shown on the map as parcel Z.
I have it right here.
That's good.
That's fine.
This was not a great map.
No worries.
No, it's just showing
We're just
that.
shrinking
Okay.
You need a
down.
magnifying glass.
So, I move that we approve the conveyance of the town of Bethel to the town of Bethel, that portion of a property on Benedict Road, as shown on the survey depicting parcel Z, to be conveyed for roadway purposes dated September 25th, 2023, and filed in the Bethel Land Records at file 28, map 181, subject to town council approval and conveyance documentation.
Second.
Any, I know you were talking a little more about different motion, but this is the
That's
correct
the
one. Okay, well, all that, I'll try your minds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Okay, now do you want to talk, we're gonna do the Sand Creek sewer easement.
Yes, we are.
Okay. So we're talking about formalizing the 3 undocumented sanitary sewer easements and infrastructure.
So in the course also doing their surveys, they found that there were, and they're telling me from the 90s, 3 A, B, and C easements here and here and here, which have been in existence for decades, but were never memorialized. When they did their title searches, there were no recorded easements. These have been in use. I've checked with Tom Vila and they have been in use and they thought they had been documented, but for some reason they never were. So as they're getting ready to, ultimately they're going to sell their lots and convey them, they want to be able to show that there are sewer easements in place. So they've asked us to approve formalizing those sewer easements that show on this map. And there are 3 of them. And the other part of that is that they, to grant an easement for the town of Bethel workers to go in and maintain and repair and so forth, but also they convey the structures that are in there, all the lines and the conduits and everything in there, by bill of sale, so that they give over to us their equipment as well. That's usually what we do, and then we, we maintain it going forward.
So I know we had some discussion about this, about the easements and the bill of sale portion. Basically, what we're saying is we're going to, we'll say, approve the easements, and you're going to draw up the easements, so they're in the way we want them.
Mhm.
Are we going to do a separate vote at some point to accept?
Well, I have made this motion subject to the approval of the Public Utility Commission as well. I talked to Tom about it, and he also thought these easements were in place, and said he knows that these have been operational for a long time, for as long as he's been here. So appears to be just a housekeeping thing where we just
Right.
somehow didn't get around to this back in the 90s. So yes, I would think that we're doing both of those things. So your motion then would be to formalize the subject to the Public Utilities Commission
Right.
to formalize the sanitary sewer easements.
So there's nothing we have to do separate, because I didn't know where we finished on this, to actually accept the property, to accept what's under the ground.
Yeah,
We're saying by accepting the easement, we're accepting that responsibility.
we should also say, and the infrastructure by way of bill of sale. To that would probably be also added to the motion.
Okay.
What do you mean by bill of sale?
So, that's the document used to convey, if I were conveying my car to you, of course, I would do a bill of sale. So the easements give the town folks the ability to go into private property. But then they also, in the course of doing these things, convey the structures that are there as well.
Yeah,
They
but the
become
town already
town.
paid for those structures when they put the sewers in.
The ones on his property?
Yeah.
Did we put those in?
We're talking about the existing sewers that pick up,
Yeah.
Well,
I thought they
in other
built
words,
no, I mean.
or are you talking about his new system stuff?
his new systems in.
Oh, his new
under
system,
the
okay, all
development.
right.
I don't know about in the 1990s who put those in.
I mean,
Well, the town did it in
we
the
put the
night.
lateral, we'll put the laterals in, but if this is something that's already being used, wouldn't someone have to hook into the lateral?
Well, I think there's two things. There's the old stuff from the
The old
90s,
stuff.
plus the new stuff that he's putting the infrastructure in for his
Right.
development, and we're gonna accept that as town property.
Except we're
Right.
not doing that tonight because they don't have the maps ready for us to do that tonight.
Right.
In the new one.
So the new one's right. Or we will definitely be doing the bill of sale and the.
But this
easements.
is
So
the old one.
These are the
Yeah,
old ones
this
that
is
are
the old
in the
ones we're
ground.
talking about
Yeah.
tonight. They're already there.
And we didn't build them, they built them.
No, this is from the 90s.
Yeah, from the 90s,
Yeah.
when this,
We
when
we would
the
have
town put the sewers in.
Yeah, we put those.
So then,
On his property. What is
Yeah,
now?
well,
Lateral,
apparently
it's probably
they
the
never fulfilled the easement paperwork,
Yeah,
and we put them in on the proposed easement.
doesn't surprise me. So then there's really no reason. at this
so
point
that
to
we
worry
might
about
not need a
accepting
bill of
anything.
sale. I don't know about the history of this.
I mean, you
going back
cover,
so
you
far.
cover it anyway where the town council is to prepare all the appropriate.
Yeah, so
and
if we
customary
find we need something.
documentation.
No, but the issue was that if doing an easement, we talked about this, doesn't convey you the ability to own what's underneath it. Just you have the ability to go on property, what you need to do.
Right.
And that's where we were going back and forth. So right now that doesn't matter. So we'll move as it is here.
It sounds like we do need the easement to maintain.
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
we need an easement,
sewers,
there's no question.
For
It's not- yeah.
sure. And,
Yeah.
and if they put them in and rather the town did, then there's no need for us to convey them to ourselves.
Right.
Right.
The
So,
new
I mean,
ones, the
new
new
ones will
ones,
have to
however, when we get the new
Correct.
maps,
I
then,
agree.
then, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that probably next meeting. They'll have probably new maps for us and then we'll be able to talk about that. But you're right, they're installing those for sure. They're putting in all that equipment and stuff.
But it's good to have the old guy here.
No, it's
My two old guys.
It's helpful to have the
He
history.
could just be making it up.
You might, you might
You know.
just get you in trouble.
Okay.
Okay, with that, I move that we approve, subject to the Public Utilities Commission approval, sanitary sewer easements as shown on survey depicting sanitary sewer easements A, B, and C dated January 26, 2024, and to authorize town council to prepare the appropriate and customary documentation for this purpose.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion?
No.
All right, all in favor? Aye, aye, any opposed? Motion carries, 100%. There you go. Tom, go get that out of the way. That was painful. Okay. Actually, I'll try something. Okay, so Parks and Recreation has asked about having a field maintenance account. Would you like to describe it since we're here, Rachel?
Oh, okay,
Hate to
so
have-
long ago, when
Yeah.
the turf project was starting, I think with Matt, they created a turf replacement fund account. And I know we've discussed this a lot of times with the Board of Selectmen, I'm pretty sure we discussed it with the Board of Finance. We were implementing, starting this spring, a player fee per season for all groups that utilize Bethel Athletic Fields. So some of that we want to put into the turf fund, and some of that we want to put into a field maintenance fund. And that fund would be utilized for unplanned issues that occur that were not budgeted for. We just need somewhere to put the money, and the Board of Ed needs somewhere to put the money. So we don't want all of the money to go into the turf replacement fund. We want to split that out. And in order to do that, we need you guys to approve another account to be created, because the money's going to start coming in now that spring sports have started. And this will be our first round of all groups using it.
How much is in the turf replacement account now?
Nothing, because this was never
Oh.
started. So this fall, the schools implemented a fee raise with pay to play. I believe it went up $50. I'm not 100% sure.
And 25 goes to you? Not to you personally, to Parks and Rec.
25, I don't know if Board of Ed ever discussed how they were splitting up that extra 50. But a portion of that is supposed to go into the turf replacement fund. I also feel some of that should go to the field maintenance fund because, Board of Finance is more aware of, but like we paid $10,000 in pump replacement for the track building because people were flushing underwear down the toilets and ruined our pumps. But little things like that, fencing, things like that, I'm already spending $4,000 on fencing in the school complex for safety reasons, things like that. So,
But is this gonna affect the kids? Like, let's say a high schooler plays football and he's paying his pay to play $50 increase. Are they gonna have to pay an additional $25 or does the Board of Ed pay you?
no, so Board of Ed implemented their own things for their school activities, and they're supposed to be putting money in towards the funds.
Okay.
As far as I know, that's.
So you're talking about like an in-town softball league or baseball league
Any
will pay
league.
$25.
And they were able to choose how they wanted to implement that. They either tacked it onto their fee, or I think most of the leagues just put like an asterisk plus $25 for park and rec maintenance fee. And every group was allowed to sort of figure out how they wanted to put that onto their participants.
So it's not just for the turf field.
No,
It's for
and
all.
that's why we didn't want it. That's why we don't want all the money going into the turf replacement fund, because not everybody utilizes it as much as other groups.
Well, are the people who are using the turf field, are they also supplementing your other fields, or that it's just all
Every
segregated?
association pretty much uses every field. Lacrosse uses 5 different fields, not just the turf. Soccer uses 6 different fields, not just the turf. Baseball is able to use the baseball side of the turf, which is great for them, but they also utilize Mitchell and Hunt. Softball, the same thing. We've allotted time for them on the turf, but they utilize the other 3 softball fields.
All right, so what kind of money are you looking for in this fund?
It's
$10,000 or?
It's based on the association's participation. So if baseball has 200 participants in the spring, 200 times 25, whoever can do fast math.
5,000?
What'd you say?
Not
Yeah.
5,000.
Whatever fast math is. That's how much we would.
Yeah,
it's
100 times
really-
20, if it's 5,000.
It's based on participation. So every season it would change based on how many kids were in the program.
How much would go into the turf
I'm
replacement
sorry,
fund?
10 of the 25, 10 of the 25 goes into the turf fund.
Okay.
15 goes into the field maintenance.
So you're looking for 15 out of that for field replacement,
Correct.
emergencies.
Correct.
My understanding that's part of that is really to offset that some folks don't play on the turf yet.
Correct.
And
So
this
we-
way, some of
And
the
that
money
was,
is
that
going
was the
to.
big, that was the big rub when we knew we had to implement it, we knew we had to start putting something into that fund is really wasn't fair for the groups that didn't get to utilize the turf as much to have to pay all of that to something they don't really get to utilize. So if the monies are gonna go to make facilities upgrade when needed, when things aren't budgeted for, come up, then we thought that was fair.
But in the original formation of the turf field, were they looking for that full $25?
There was never any, the turf field account was created, there was never any discussion of how that was going to get filled. There was, as far as I know, there was never a discussion of, you're gonna have to put this much in per year, and you're gonna have to put this much in per year. You know, we just figured now that it's open, we should probably start putting some money into it.
Something in it, yeah.
This isn't gonna affect people's use of the parks though, right? Like, we're not gonna charge people to use Parlow Park or,
You mean like, if you wanted to?
not me personally.
No,
like,
there's a
you know,
rental.
if a
No, no, no,
family-
so-
Like, a family uses the park, like, there's not gonna be an entrance fee to get into our
No,
parks or
no,
anything
but
like
if you
that.
wanted to, like, if you wanted to rent this
good
field
idea,
for an event, yes, we've now created like rental fees for most of our facilities across the board.
Right,
So,
but that goes back into your revenue.
yeah,
That's
so
not-
no,
So this just affects like softball leagues, baseball,
women's league, men's
soccer,
league,
yeah.
like any association fee. Otherwise, like outside groups, they're paying a rental fee.
How many people do you think, how many fees do you think you'll collect in a year, if you had to guess?
I mean, you figure, and it's spring and fall because it's per season. I mean, I think depending on the numbers, baseball, I think is up to 275 kids for just the spring, and they usually get 200 kids for the fall. So 575 kids, 600 kids. You know, there are little caveats, like if they had the scholarship a kid, we're not asking them to pay.
So between adults and kids, you think it'd be 1,000 users a year?
I would think it'd be,
So you're talking about, you know, decent amount of revenue to go back into the fields. Well, emergencies, you're
Right.
saying.
and that's just it. It wouldn't be for, you know, getting paint and things like that. Those are things I should be budgeting for. It would be for, you know what, the fence cracked and it's a safety issue. We've got to get it fixed. We didn't expect to incur $10,000 in fees for fences this year. But like I said, I'm already fixing a field at Hunt and a field at Kiss Lane, and it's coming to about 4,500 total to fix those, and it's small sections.
Now, are you gonna have to go to Board of Finance for approval to use the fund in this?
I mean,
We do
me
fund.
personally would
Okay.
be going to my commission with like, hey, this has come up. I mean, unless
So the
you
commission-
dictate something else.
The commission would
Kind-
determine whether you could use that or,
You know, barring a major emergency where something crazy came up.
Yeah, actually, wouldn't, with the commission, I don't think gets to do this. It would still be the Board of Finance
You guys tell
pulling
me.
it out of the account, I believe. Without Brad here, I'm not
Yeah,
100%
I
sure.
think it would have to be the Board.
I do.
Board of
Yeah, I think
Finance.
so, too. Yeah, Board of Finance.
Yeah.
Because doesn't the Board of Ed have to ask the Board of Finance for their unexpended funds accounts or not?
No, not to use them.
No,
Or-
they always report to the board
Report
friends
to
and
the
tell
board,
them what they're
right.
doing,
Yeah.
and share that, but, you know,
But yeah, none of our departments can just use accounts on their budget.
Right.
We'd have to, that'd be separate. But the whole point is we're putting it there for that future use of a turf or a maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And like I said, it's really the purpose is to just have it there for the things that come up that just weren't expected, that
Yeah.
might be just big figure items that would brutalize my budget.
So currently, Rachel, currently the whole $25 was gonna go to the, we should push turf repair.
Honestly, Rich, there was no plan.
There's no plan.
There was no plan. until
We can create-
we,
Well, I know we're
I know that.
kind of free for the fall and stuff, and then you're gonna get into the new season.
I'm
But
saying,
is there a committee that oversees the field, or is it all your department now, the turf field?
Mark and I, the AD at the high school, we worked together, created
Yeah.
the schedule, especially in the spring and the fall.
Yeah.
But in the summer, it's typically me because the high schools really don't use it, but I mean, for the most part, it's just a collaboration between myself and the AD of who gets the time on the turf.
Yeah, I think that,
What was the rough estimate for the replacement of the turf field in 10 years?
I think typically it's $1 million at best.
we haven't put any money back for it yet.
Well, no, well, it just got going.
I think typically from what I've heard of others, but again, our turf field is double most turf fields.
Yeah.
It's quite large.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, I thought when we were discussing the project, it was like 300 or 400,000
To replace,
to replace the turf. I don't remember.
I thought it was $1 million. I could be lying, but
I
I
don't
was pretty
know.
sure
I
most,
thought,
I'm pretty sure most turf replacements, and it's usually pulling up and replacing pieces and then putting all new fill in and new. I can get a number, but again,
I mean,
the turf project,
Well,
I think it would be
I mean, that
something for
was-
long-term capital planning to know, because that's,
yes.
you know, because how long did we say they last?
I
15,
think
10,
typically
15
10 to
years?
15 years depending, but our turf gets highly used, highly used.
I'd have to-
I just want to make sure that we have that money in the future.
Richard, I don't think we're gonna grow this account to $1 million, so I think we'll be taking it somewhere else, okay? Even if you had 1,000 kids, you know, I
You know,
don't think
that's
that,
somewhere
but
along the line, the discussion needs, I think somebody needs to tell the board that they can start putting money into it. I don't think they have.
I think we need a little more information from Brad. or Board of
well, I'm fine
Finance.
with opening up the account.
Well, it's according to Brad, it's our purview to open the
Yeah,
account.
they just
Yeah,
have to
we
figure
Board of
out,
Finance has
but
we
to
can
do it.
open it, they just have to figure out,
How much?
where, I mean,
Yeah, we went
I personally think Board of Finance will have final
Yeah.
approval on the use of the fund.
I believe
mean,
that way too.
All
I
right, so
think
we're
that's
just
what we
opening.
have.
the
And I
account.
can-
We're
and I
opening
can
it,
make
they'll
that-
have
And
to
someone
figure
else
that out.
with the dollars is gonna
The
figure out
legal
how
minds will
much,
figure all that out.
you know, rather than maybe she gets 15, she gets 12, I don't know.
Well, who else
That
gets
was
it?
already, I don't know,
It
that
goes
was
to the
already,
replacement fund.
that was already conveyed to the associations that would be the split. This was-
I'm sorry, say that again.
That was already conveyed to the associations and the other groups, that would be the split.
And that was the Park and Recreation Commission.
Yeah, I mean, if the Park and
Which
Rec
they usually
Commission
shut the
feels
public
fine,
hearing.
then I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of opening the account. As long as they get the dollar amount squarely.
Okay,
So Brad, and Dan can just tell me.
okay.
Use it.
And we'll talk to the Board of Finance about that too, so
Yeah.
that'll be discussion. So I move that we create a field maintenance account.
Park. Should we, based on?
I don't know if we're actually, I think we're just voting on creating the account.
And
not-
create, because right here, you know, they're
Yeah.
talking about the 25 to 15.
Based on Parks and Rec's new proposed, $25 fee, you know, we give approval on the creation of account to store monies,
Well, that's, yeah.
under the supervision of, the comptroller. I guess we could put Board of Finance in there, right?
That's what it is here. Okay, so I'll just do it this way because we're just creating the account, right? So I move that we create a field maintenance account for the Park and Recreation for allocations to the field maintenance account. And actually, I'll just do that. We're creating the field maintenance account and the fees and approvals are subject to the Board of Finance approval.
Second.
It's like,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the night is getting long. I know that you had somewhere to go. So I will ask, I make a motion to allow the first selectman to secure a broker and do any due diligence with regard to the purchase of the 159 Greenwood Avenue property. Do I have a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we're going to delay, we'll do an executive session at the next meeting.
because it's getting kind of late there, so. Okay. With that, I believe it wraps up everything.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Motion carried. We are adjourned at 8:10 PM. For a minute, I thought you were walking away without going to